right, I am happy to be joined this afternoon with Dr. Jason Mitchell, who is the CEO of HempFusion, as well as Dr. David Harnick, who is a board-certified cardiologist out of Mount Sinai Medical Hospital in New York City. Doctors, thank you for joining us here this afternoon.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Shad. Good seeing you again.
Yeah, it's good seeing you. Some may ask why the connection is with both of you, and the reason is because HempFusion CBD has been selected to be used as the exclusive brand and sole supplier of a 6-month clinical trial conducted by you, Dr. Harnick, out of the Mount Sinai Medical Hospital in New York City. So since that announcement was made, it's certainly garnered a lot of interest amongst many consumers and investors within the space. So I want to begin with you. With what basically the study entails and why has HempFusion been selected for this particular study?
Certainly. So, I'm just to introduce myself, I'm a cardiologist and electrophysiologist. I've been in private practice for the past 15 years. And, when looking at medical conditions that we treat, hypertension and atrial fibrillation, two of the things that I'd like to investigate are such prevalent diseases that only keep growing over the course of our aging population. And some of the issues that we have are really polypharmacy in lots of patients. We have multiple drugs that we use for long periods of time, and patients are always skeptical about taking more and more medications with more and more costs and more side effects. And I think over the course of my time, patients are always looking for, I wouldn't call it alternative therapies, but other therapies that they might use to affect any of their conditions, including their cardiac conditions. And we have so many different anecdotal reports of my brother tried this and my mother was on this and my family member and friend tried this. And this keeps coming back to THC and CBD and, what do you think? And what are your thoughts? And in doing some research, there's very little research out there. There's a lot of anecdotal of, how it affects your neuropsychiatric system and how it might affect pain systems and how it's used, as a drug for the one condition it's approved for is seizures. But there's no controlled studies that's used in cardiovascular conditions. And I thought over the really course of the past year, while I was stuck home for a long period of time during the pandemic, doing some thinking and reading and research on my own that, hey, it'd be great to see if there's a way we can use CBD to see if there's an effect on cardiovascular conditions. And here we are. So that was my thoughts, and reached out to HempFusion, which was, I'd say, pioneering in medical studies. And we sort of started amongst the conversation.
What are you hoping or anticipating that the study will reveal?
So obviously, beneficial results are good in any study, meaning can we have a product that is safe to use, that's well tolerated, and that has beneficial outcomes, meaning can we reduce blood pressure or reduce patients' arrhythmias would be a wonderful outcome. Even if it's not a super beneficial study in terms of outcomes, if we have a neutral study, but patients feel better, might that even be a good outcome? So, something neutral or positive benefits would be a fantastic thing. And that's why I'm undertaking this study.
It's good. Jason, I want to speak to you about some of the important factors in regulatory compliance that HempFusion has been focused on since its inception. I guess, what does this announcement mean for the overall company and the opportunity that it presents, if successful, obviously?
One of the things that we're committed to is we're committed to not only research on safety, but efficacy. We want to understand more about what CBD can do. When you look at what the FDA constantly questions, one is this safe? What are the real things that CBD can participate in, or these magical cannabinoids, as I like to call them? The fact is that I believe that it is right now at this moment a huge opportunity to unlock the mysteries that have eluded medical professionals for decades. And as we open the door on research, it's going to open the eyes of not only the use as a dietary supplement, but also the use in medical applications, as Dr. Harnick is focused on. Now, we as a company, believe it or not, are not even going to gain the benefit of being able to market products for the specific conditions and elements related to this study. But we are committed to furthering this research so that we can have more answers about the goodness that can come from this plant. You know, the whole inspiration of this company from the very beginning for me was that I fell ill myself with a condition that unfortunately the medical answers were not so fun. And so as a result, I looked for answers on what I might be able to do for myself, not to suggest that HempFusion had anything to do with curing or healing or mitigating any of the condition challenges that I had, but I wanted better answers. And so I think investing in this is meaningful. It's meaningful for people, especially those afflicted with challenges. It's meaningful for the medical community to have more research out there and available as to what the effects cannabinoids have on the body in general. Because keep in mind, every biological system in the body is affected by the endocannabinoid system, and plant-based cannabinoids affect the entire endocannabinoid system in one way or another. It's absolutely amazing. And I think uncovering this is important.
How widespread are these types of conditions in society today, based on some of the studies that you're doing? And Jason, we'll begin with you.
So Dr. Harnick doesn't even know this. I didn't reveal this on our calls when we've talked because I want to remain a bit outside on this discussion to some degree. I myself have suffered with what's called lone proximal atrial fibrillation, and it was related to post-exercise induced. And it's misunderstood. It's completely idiopathic, meaning there isn't any answers. I wasn't medically converted by any device or medication, but in fact was totally misunderstood. I suffer myself with PVCs and PACs and certain SVTs, things that are related to arrhythmatic issues of the heart that can be challenging, frustrating, and even scary at times. And so for me, I'm emotionally interested in seeing if doing something with cannabinoids can have an effect on cardiac markers.
Is this a lot of feedback that you hear about day to day, Dr. Harnick, that maybe garner the interest of selecting CBD as a compound?
Indeed, it is, and as I said, the questions that I've been posed and the lack of answers that I was able to provide my patients really, stimulated my scientific exploration for saying, is there an effect? Is there something that we could do for the patients? And given the high interest that, our society has generated over the past few years in CBD and hemp extracts, I think it's such a ripe time to explore this question, to see if there is a benefit that we could offer patients outside of, FDA approved drugs in a way.
Yeah, I want to ask specifically about the trials themselves. I was wondering if, Dr. Harnick, you can explain to our listeners what a randomized, double-blinded, placebo-controlled trial is.
Certainly. So to be, just to keep things in a layman's term, we have results that have been published and they're anecdotal, meaning, some patients took some medicines and all of a sudden their blood pressure went down. But was that because they just took it and they felt better, or it was a one-time effect? Nobody knows. So a placebo-controlled double-blinded study is the best way to really approach any scientific experiment. It means that the doctor and the patient, neither one know what they're getting, to reduce external sources of bias when it comes to testing the effectiveness of a new treatment. So we take away the bias of saying, I'm giving you a drug, and then there's what we call a placebo effect. The patient automatically feels better, and because they feel better, things are already great. And then the doctor also knows that, maybe I'm giving this drug, let me change some of the other medications. So by not knowing on either end, it's the best and purest way to undertake a study so that we have unscathed answers to this trial.
Yeah. Jason, I want to go back to you. This is the second clinical trial HempFusion is participating. You've obviously indicated the importance of these trials. What does this mean? I guess if you're communicating to a group of investors right now, the goal, the mindset, as to the direction as to where this company wants to go with regards to the ongoing research that's being conducted, knowing this is your second trial already.
So when we get involved in these particular clinical trials, it opens up I guess you could say, a larger basket of understanding of what cannabinoids can do and how you can use them in formulations to better serve the consumers. Because at the end of the day, if you have a finished product and you know what benefits might actually be received by the person using the product, then you know very well that a consumer will likely become more loyal to that particular product. They want to know that it's made correctly, that it's manufactured correctly, that it's considered safe. Those are high concerns of consumers, whether it's realized upfront or not. But I think every consumer has a perceived value or perceived understanding that the product is safe. But if the company's done their due diligence to make sure that it's safe, then we know we're taking care of the consumer. If we can also make sure that it has benefit to them beyond what we can actually market, then perhaps there is a long-term loyalty that can be created by consumers that get a benefit. So what does it mean to our investors? It means that we're investing in the future of where this is going. See, this isn't a short game. This isn't a sprint. This is an endurance race. And I believe that doing research like this unlocks doors of opportunity for the future. Now, that's not to say that HempFusion may at some point be involved in a more advanced drug trial to where something that we are doing today could eventually become a drug. We don't know that. And so by doing the research today, having the preliminary understanding of where we're heading can give us an open door for the future.
Well, I think when you look at big picture here we are speaking with two different doctors, right? We're talking about CBD. If I have to ask both of you, was there something specific that I guess made you change your views on CBD as a whole, like what your perception was originally and what changed? We'll start with you, Jason. And is there anything that you could outline? You know, you've kind of indicated, you know, the struggles that you had medically, but what was your view of it before? And then how much has this industry advanced to where we are today?
In 2011, if you were to ask me that question, I was rabidly opposed to anything cannabis. I thought everything was a lie, an excuse to smoke weed. I mean, that's literally what my thoughts were. I was, I mean, on the opposite side of the spectrum, so absolutely that no one could convince me otherwise. It wasn't until I got sick myself that I was, because when I was in medical school, they didn't teach about the endocannabinoid system. Even today, as much as we have an interest in it, there's very little training that happens at the medical school level on the endocannabinoid system. And I hope that through research and through other open eyes and open doors, that more of that will continue. But I had to learn about it on my own. And as a result of this, it led me to a greater understanding and an acceptance of what cannabis is. And so to be truthful, when I went through my challenges, it's what led me to opening my eyes. And, you know, almost apologetically, I now put the company together to say, I'm sorry I was so ignorant, but we're going to do something quite special now going forward. That's literally how I got introduced to it. And I came from it, quite honestly, as a child of the 80s. The devil's weed, you know, say no to drugs. I mean, just all those different things.
I think there's a lot of people like that, though. But this is a great interview, speaking with two different doctors. Dr. Harnick, what was your experience like?
Right. I mean, Jason, I'm fascinated by your answer to that, because, you know, the same thing, you know, it was always drugs are bad and I don't want to know about it. And if you're doing it, I don't respect you as much. But
that's right.
I think, you know, in digging deeply into the endocannabinoid system, you know, it's almost an offshoot of the endocrinologic system. There's pleiotropic effects on, I sort of call it the yin and the yang of the body, right? It regulates the excitatory and inhibitory circuits really that are integral to our maintenance of balance and homeostasis. And when you look at, you know, CB1 receptors and CB2 receptors and multiple other receptors involved in, you know, is it THC? Is it hemp? Is it terpenes? Which one is hitting what? And there's modulators in the central nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, the immune system, the GI system, the cardiovascular. You know, there are so many different plays. And in the end, will we be looking at potentially designing a dosage or a CBD extract that acts as either an agonist or an antagonist through a direct or indirect means on one of these receptors to have our desired benefits? And I think that's where some of the excitement might come. I don't know. I mean, we're obviously undertaking a very, you know, simple first step here, looking at a placebo versus two different doses of CBD and whether it'll affect some of the outcomes that I'm looking for. But and you know, to Shad's first question, what am I going to do if there's a good outcome or a bad outcome? I don't know. We might still
Yeah.
um, be able to experiment with this if we continue to tailor or taper the design of these products to get a better desired outcome. And I think that's
Mhm.
where my excitement comes from, because I think this you know, physiologic system in the human body is so poorly understood that we keep understanding it better over time.
Well, one thing's for sure, people's perception are definitely changing, more open minds. But, you know, I think a lot of the cannabis related stuff is that it's garnered a lot of interest. There hasn't been a lot of research off the top. But when you speak to a lot of your colleagues within the space, and we'll start with you, Dr. Harnick, are there more and more people starting to like warm up to the idea to have a more of an open mind that are starting to like entertain more and more of these conversations to, you know, in a lot of ways, expand the overall growth from a medical standpoint of the industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question. You know, started uh, speaking with colleagues about this, and you know, it was a almost a difficult conversation, not knowing if people would think I'm, you know, off the deep end looking at this or real. And I think the response that I've got is excitement and wow, you're doing this, and you know, it's a great thing to explore because one, nobody knows, and I think the amount of people that are doing a lot of things even without us knowing about it makes us want to know more about it. And I think that's
Mhm.
where, as doctors, as physicians, as scientists, we really want to have the answers rather than I just don't have an answer for you, or go try it, or ask your, you know, psychiatrist about it. You know, these aren't just medications to help you feel better or make you sleep. I mean, you know, the physiologic, neuropsychiatric effects are well established in the THC, but I think the medicinal purposes on the CBD outcomes of it might be a whole different ballgame that people are very excited to learn about.
Yeah. Dr. Mitchell, same thing?
You know, if I were looking at this, I think that at some point you're going to have an entire medical group called endocannabinologists. I mean, I
Really?
just see it eventually happening. I feel that it will become a class of medicine of its own. And I think at that point, it will rival that of general medicine simply because of what Dr. Harnick just said a few minutes ago. The
Mhm.
endocannabinoid system's primary goal is to maintain and restore homeostasis, or a sense of balance, and is an interconnected system of receptors that are located throughout every biological system in the body, every tissue, every organ. It's all over the body. And that it definitely responds to systems that are not operating correctly or out of balance for whatever reason. And, you know, my favorite phrase in medicine is by Hippocrates, let food be thy medicine. And what he didn't say was let a singular isolated compound identified in a lab be medicine. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, medicine has gone so far that way that for once, maybe not just for once, there's multiple occasions, but um, to really be focused here, for one really amazing time, there's a possibility that something so genuinely natural and wonderful and absolutely awesome, and the potential is all there, could possess some of these wonderful benefits. And for me, that's enough inspiration, is that
Mhm.
something really closer to the way nature intended it be actually the benefit would be awesome. The closer we get to food, I believe, is really where we should be. And what's interesting about why I'm loving that our product is going to be used in this study is because it's not just CBD. Our
Mhm.
product has other cannabinoids, flavonoids, other compounds that naturally occur in hemp. In fact, we're not just a CBD company.
Yeah.
In fact, our product is far closer to the natural fingerprint in the plant because I believe there's more to this story. Some people refer to it as minor cannabinoids. Maybe they're only minor in concentration, but not minor in effect. And that
Mhm.
there is some truth to this word called the entourage effect. It isn't just a clever word to group things together to sound sexy, but there is a truth to it that these things work better together.
Yeah.
And so I envision I mean, an absolute movement, if you will. I mean, it's already happening, to be honest, but I see a whole class of medicine emerging out of this science entirely, where there
Yeah.
will be specialists in this area.
I think you're right. It's a positive outlook to say the least. This year is an important year. You've had success expanding from 79 to 800 stores in the coveted FDM big box channel. So I think as you study a lot of this stuff right now, What do you think you want to communicate to your investors as you finish things off as to what this means and what it potentially could mean later on down the road?
It just simply means that we're absolutely committed to the long game, to making absolutely sure that HempFusion is not only involved in creating great products for the retail community or the online community, but that in fact we're committed to research that will further, hopefully further, this industry as a whole, and then medicine potentially we will contribute to the advancement in science and understanding of this beautiful plant and the multitude of different uses that you could actually have of this plant, not only as a food or dietary supplement, potentially as medical applications. And we're absolutely committed. And I think that will only lead us into what I consider the ultimate in leadership role in the hemp industry. And that's our goal.
Great.
And our investors have been strongly behind us. And we hope that this is an exhibit of our undying commitment to making sure that HempFusion is a part of what is, I would say, life-changing.
Great message by both of you here today. Dr. Harnick, Dr. Mitchell, appreciate you taking the time to catch up with us. And let's keep in touch as this trial progresses.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Chad, and thank you, Dr. Mitchell.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Harnick, for being involved in this. We're just excited to get this rolling, and Chad, as always, thank you.
Keep up the great work. Let's keep in touch.
Goodbye.
Take care.